So we were also asked to present a few cases where you have a protected or listed building and there are issues with ventilation. So we chose basically 3 examples from different centuries. The Lohisaari Manor in the left from the mid-17th century. It's a museum today. And then the former main building of Alikartano from the end of the 18th century, and then it's a museum today. And then a residential and commercial building from the town of Tammisaari that was finished in 1880, the Lydman House. It is known as the home of the Fleming family, which was an aristocratic family in Finland, and then of the Mannerheim families. So the Cœur de Logis, or the main building, which can be seen in this picture, it was built by the Amiral and Governor-General of Finland, Herman Fleming, in the mid-17th century as his residence. And it needed to be really prestigious. It's one of the few masonry manor buildings that we have from that era in Finland. Mainly all the manor houses were built of timber at that time. So this was really something exceptional. And several of the Lohisaari Flemings, they held important positions in the Kingdom of Sweden, Finland. So they also had posts in Stockholm. And then the Marshal of Finland, Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim, was born here in 1867. I think everybody knows Mannerheim. Yes. And spent his childhood here. And then in the early 1960s, when Mannerheim was already deceased, there was a committee for an equestrian monument. That meaning Mannerheim riding a horse. This committee for the monument for Mannerheim bought the main building, or the Lohisaari Manor, and donated it to the Finnish state. And it was then, the administration was, or the museum in charge was at that time the National Museum of Finland. And nowadays it's the state-owned company, Senate Properties, that is the owner of this building and also supervises its restoration and use. And Livadi Architects has been responsible for the restoration design, including everything from conservation of surfaces to ventilation and plumbing. And we are also making a building historical survey of the building at the same time, both to help the restoration process and also just to document the history of the building of Lohisaari. And actually the same applies to all these examples that I'm here showing. They are projects from Livadi, and here the responsible architect is Marko Huttunen, who is Julia's husband, and the other projects, there the restoration architect is Julia. Okay, and the only kind of modern time commodity or amenity that it has today is electricity, and it only has it in some places. So it's really kind of, in a way, very authentic today from the surface, the building. So there are, of course, many different issues as for the use and the comfort of the clients and guides in the museum, as it was opened as a museum in the 60s, and then underwent a rather comprehensive restoration where also old structures were dismantled because they wanted to kind of have the more historical look for the building and especially for the interiors. But one of the big problems nowadays, and probably growing with the climate change or getting worse along with the climate change, is the heat load in the building, because it has no kind of ventilation system, actually, this building. None, I think no manor house of that time would have had it. And this is one thing, and another thing is that it's a museum with museum objects and furniture, textiles, paintings, etc., and there is the UV radiation that should be kind of shut off. And earlier, against the UV radiation, they had roller blinds, but this has proved to be an insufficient way of shielding the interiors, and also it blocks the views from the inside to the outside landscape, which is actually quite important for the good experience, museum experience. So now with consultation with Leino, Livadi has designed two main measures to kind of cope with this, the heat and UV radiation problems. You see that the heat load is naturally kind of biggest on the southwest and southeast sides. And the idea is that on this side, the windows shall have both a thermal shield or a shield against temperatures, high temperatures, and a UV radiation shield. And on the other sides, facing more or less north, only UV radiation shielding is needed. This is ongoing, so we don't still yet have any results of these measures. And then another thing here is that we are utilizing the stack effect. This is a rather tall building with a very tall attic, open attic, actually quite historical, and a dark roof. Today it's black. It's a wooden roof, but it's painted black. So it will get rather hot in the summer, and also this attic space will be rather warm. So this will then create a stack effect when we have certain arrangements on the interior. The building will be ventilated in the night time. After the museum closes in the evening, the guides there take some measures. They open this window here, which will be specially designed to be used as a ventilation window, and also a burglar-proof and bird-proof and insect-proof window. And then doors are opened to those spaces that need ventilation or cooling, so you can select which rooms need it. Not so many rooms needed actually here on the first floor, but then with the stack effect, the cool air is going upstairs. Yes, here you see the ventilation window that will be replaced. Don't worry, this is not an authentic window. It was done in the 1960s, so it's not from the mid 17th century. It will be replaced with this kind of a window in the summertime, which has a copper grille that and an insect net or a mesh, so you won't get insects, birds, or any rubbish from the outside. However, you might get some wind inside, but this also kind of slows down the force of the speed of the wind. So there shouldn't be any problems really with some rainwater. And during daytime, there will be wooden shutters, so that the kind of the user experience will be different. You just think that, okay, this kind of shutters, you could have this kind of shutters in the old days too. So this is only for the night time. But also it's adjustable. If the weather forecast says that, okay, there will be really hard winds in the night, then you maybe don't open this at all. And then the idea is that because of the stack effect, the cool air circulates higher up and ends up here on the attic. There is a stair, and it's an open stair from the first floor. There are no windows, no walls, and no other obstacles. And here they will install a door with similar arrangements. It has a mesh in order to prevent insects, etc., but it's breathing in a way. And then on top you will have 2 skylights, original skylights, where the windows will be replaced again with this shutter with copper grills, and it will be opened for the night. So the second case is this museum in Mäntsälä, some 65 kilometers from Helsinki. This is the actual main building from the early 19th century, and this is the former main building from the late 18th century, the Alipytinki. And Julia has been responsible for the restoration design of this museum for some years, and she actually might know the history much better than I do, but you correct me if I make any mistakes. So this manor became also state property in the 60s, and it was then converted to a museum, and is managed by the Senate Properties again. And it has some ventilation issues here. This was converted to a cafe in the 60s. Here are some kind of measure drawings from the 60s, where you see the kind of layout of the 20th century when it had been converted to residential use for some, well, farm workers, I guess. When it was converted to museum use or to a cafe, they built new chimneys. And the chimneys were different than the original chimneys. The original chimneys had 3 flues, but when they were now converted, the top part of them only 1.5 flues, and here 1 flue was in use or left open. And now in this restoration, where you see before and after, so this is today, they made some extensive work with the frame, which also involved making it a little bit more airtight, the frame, with this birch bark cladding under the actual cladding. But what was also renewed, or will be renewed, are the chimneys. But I will go into that a little bit later. So the problem in the cafe was very much the same as in Louhisaari, that there is the problem of overheating in the summer. And another problem is that the ventilation was quite poor for the clients and for the workers there. And then Julia started designing solutions to improve the situation. And the main measures were adding vents, like here see vents with a rain cover on the exterior or on the facade. They're quite kind of not very kind of striking, and you see a lot of this kind of vents in historical buildings in Finland. And that's what it looks in the inside. You have those rather expensive vents, but I think that they quite well work with this historical environment. And then as exhaust air vents, Julia designed to use both those vents in the ovens, like you see here, and then there are some other places too where they have added or then just kind of repaired the vents. And this is only in summer use, so it doesn't work. The cafe is not in use in the winter time. And this is from the cleaning closet, where what you cannot unfortunately see here, you designed a wooden kind of duct here, which could have been, in a way, been designed in any earlier century as well. I think it's a very nice idea. And what is not yet finished, but will be done this year, is the improvement of the chimneys and the flues. They will be opened. This is how it is now. Will be opened so that they will work better, kind of suck better air from the inside. But even already now, before the improvement of the chimneys, the owner or the keeper of the cafe, who have been working there since the 70s, they say that these small changes for the better, the vents, etc., they have improved the conditions remarkably. So the third site or third case is not a museum, but this is a building that will be used both as apartments, and then there will be some kind of a shop, or anyway a commercial premise. The Lydman House in Tammisaari. It's one of the oldest stone buildings in the town, which has mainly been a wooden town very long, and it's located in the, I would say, the most important square there. It's opposite the town hall square, and you could say that it has been a rather prestigious building at the time when it was finished and designed by an architect. But it had some not so prestigious times after the Second World War, or in the 60s, when it was converted into a department store, which meant that all the interior kind of walls were pulled down, and the decorations from the facades were stripped down so that it would have a more modern look. The windows were changed, and then they would have also these big display windows and mechanical ventilation. This actually needed a rather enlightened client who wanted to kind of, as much as possible, follow the original design of the building and give some of that kind of glamour back to this building. So you see here before and after. All this is designed by Julia. So you got all these decorations, some paintings here, and the T-shaped windows, small windows, also the small bay window thing here. They have all been kind of redone. But also the natural ventilation was brought back. And this meant rather big measures, since the old stacks and flues, they were not really good enough anymore to be used. They had been kind of torn or broken, or they were in bad condition, so mostly they rebuilt the flues using the precast elements that both Leino and Julia mentioned. And then also the chimneys were rebuilt. The apartments here, or the flats, will have natural ventilation, and also the commercial premises have natural ventilation. And what is more, when it does not have mechanical ventilation, the cold attic was retained, and also all the old structures, roof structures, that in themselves, I think, are valuable, and they are part of historic parts. And then this is my last picture to show you that even more modern buildings can still have natural ventilation. This is the so-called serpent house, käärmetalo, because it goes like this. Built in the early 50s and having natural ventilation. It was restored by the architect, restoration architect Mona Charlene a couple of years back, and they added some vents there to improve the ventilation. And of course there were other restoration measures done as well. Actually a rather big process, but so kind of well done, such a good result that it was given the is it biannual or annual Finlandia prize for the best architectural best architecture of the year. It was valued to be better than any new buildings, new architecture. This was regarded worth the prize. That's all I have to say.